I'm here with Lysa Black, and I'm absolutely delighted to have Lysa Black here as my first interviewee. Thank you so much, Lysa. We've just been having a little bit of chat to get to know each other a little bit, and my first thing really was to talk about your new book, which is out, which is Heart Healing. And I mean, I'm amazed because I believe it's gone straight into right up in the Amazon bestsellers and everything, so congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
So I just wanted to hear a little bit about how that came about, and tell me a little bit about the book, and tell me a little bit about your story, really.
Thanks, Ruth. I think what's exciting is that you end up being led where you're meant to be. And I had agendas, I had plans, and I started working in eating disorders as a life coach. That was what I'd been led to overcome. For 5 years, I worked in eating disorders, and I just kept on repeatedly seeing that beneath the eating disorder, there were emotional issues that I just wanted to pay attention to. I wanted to bring love to that area. So you get these moments in life when you get brave and you get bold, and I started directing the conversation to that area, and that was when my clients had really profound shifts. And that's when I realized there was actually more to my work than I had given myself credit for, that I was actually doing emotional healing work. I wasn't actually helping people overcome their eating disorders. That was the byproduct of the work that I was doing. So a year ago, I came out of the gift closet and declared myself as an empath. I can feel the feelings of other people in my body, and actually took all of the ideas that I was frequently repeating to my clients and packaged it into one book. And that was really why I wanted to do it, because I just felt like I was a broken record sometimes, and I'm like, I'm sick of saying this. And so it was really powerful to be able to take principles that people could understand, relay them from my life experience, and relay how I learned them and experienced them, and then give people kind of affirmations and questions to be able to see how they could play with it in their own lives. And it was so well received, and I was booked out all last year. People would read the book and they'd just come to me and say, I just have to work with you. And I never anticipated that in a million years. But I think, life has a way of blessing us when we show up truly who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh no, that's wonderful. And just that thing of being able to just hand people the book and go, right, here we are, this is what I've just been saying to you.
Yes, please. And then people can read at their own pace, in their own time. And it means that, it's the only kind of tool or support that I have additional to my coaching. And it just means that there's additional information there, that they don't just have to hear it from me once. They can re-mull over it. And a lot of people say that they'll go through the book once, and then the second time is that much richer because they're more prepared to kind of deepen in. So I think it's really exciting. I loved it when you approached me about talking about how what I'm doing now relates to what I did as a little girl. And it's been a really lovely topic to kind of ponder over, because I remember writing stories as a little girl, but what I was doing was more intentionally trying to get people to an emotional end outcome through the story, which I wasn't consciously aware of as a little girl. And so I just remember writing these stories and not caring about the characters or the plot, knowing that they were vehicles to carry them an emotional message. And so I'd go, who wants to hear my story? Because people didn't want to hear about their emotions, but they wanted to hear my story. And so they'd gather around me, and I just remember relaying the story, but feeling them emotionally shift as I did so. And so now to be doing my work, my second book is really exciting because it's no longer about my life experiences. I'm actually teaching principles of how you can live on purpose from my clients' stories from last year. So I think it's an even more dynamic way for us to learn as someone relays an experience from someone else that seems disconnected and unrelated from us, and yet there'll be elements that we can all relate to.
Absolutely. So you're sort of a storyteller in a way as well, alongside
I am a storyteller. I love telling stories. I think it's interesting to see the agenda and objective that I have behind storytelling.
Yeah.
And that I'm wanting to create these emotional shifts and these emotional outcomes, because people just seem so frightened of their own emotions, so frightened of their feelings, so confused and fearful. And one of my favorite things that I love sharing is that it's my belief that our feelings or our emotions are communication from our own soul.
Yes.
So just to dance you through that briefly, I go something like sadness. Sadness will only erupt in my heart if something I truly value has been lost or has passed away. Okay, so I teach people sadness isn't bad. Sadness is how our own soul helps us to understand what is of true worth and true value in this life.
So it's like a compass?
Absolutely. It's like it's a compass that is personally attuned to our path. So another great example is anger. I love getting angry. I love getting angry because whenever I'm angry, it lets me know that I've either dishonored or disrespected myself or let someone else do that.
Okay. Yeah.
So then anger becomes how I learn how to live in self-honor. Because every time I don't, I feel angry and I'm like, oh, I'm angry. What did I do? How did I let someone dishonor me? And then I take that information and I incorporate it. And so anger helps us to see how we personally can live in self-honor. I didn't know this when I was a young kid. I'm so emotionally sensitive and I just had to swim in all this muck for so long. And I'm like, what's the point of it all? And now, like, jealousy is so, so valuable. Anytime that I feel jealous, it lets me know of desires that I've dishonored. Okay, so maybe I've had a yearning that I've rejected and I've pushed it down, and then someone shows up rocking that hairstyle I didn't have the courage to do, and I'm like, oh, jealous, and I'm like, haha, I do want that for myself. Yeah. So this is a kind of like a baseline. I don't coach in this area, but this is just some of the basic principles that if we knew, imagine if our children could understand that feeling these feelings helps us to know who we are and how to live our truth. That gets very exciting.
Yeah,
well, it does for me.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. I'm sort of pondering it as you're talking, and I absolutely identify with the jealousy thing, because you say you think, but why? And then you realise that it's that long forgotten, sometimes long forgotten, sometimes very much on the surface, but I think more often a sort of long forgotten dream or
totally, Ruth.
Something, yeah. And
how good is it to get jealous? It's like, yes.
Okay, so no worries. Wow, so we're talking about jealousy and anger and these sort of emotions. I'm really, obviously what I actually originally contacted you about was, as you say, the work as a child, really, and how that's informed what you do now. And I'm fascinated about what you were saying, how as a child you told stories in order to help people emotionally. Is that kind of what you meant, what you said?
Yeah.
And is that something which you consciously remembered when you started doing this work, or?
Yeah, it was never intentional. Like, I never was like, oh, I'm going to go back and do these things from when I was younger. I think the further we go and the more we observe ourselves, I think the more clarity we receive. And so I think we're all just bumbling along, doing the best that we know how. And then you start to look at patterns and you start to look at things that are reoccurring. And, it was really frightening to come out as an emotional healer. I was really apprehensive about that because, I'm an Orthodox Christian. I go to church on a Sunday and, it's not, a profession for, an Orthodox Christian. And yet I noticed and observed every career that brought me joy was always involved with guiding people emotionally. I did that in different ways, but that was the baseline for all of the results that I created for people, was because I could comprehend them. I could talk to them in a way that they could emotionally comprehend what I was saying, because people don't just hear information. They're actually it has to pass through their heart first. And if you can't get the information past their heart, you're not going to get it into their head. And I didn't know that I knew that. I think this is what's really interesting about our purpose and our gifts, is that it's just in us. And so when we're so acclimatized to being who we are and doing what we do, we don't see the genius in it.
Yes.
And it's only by repeatedly observing myself, I think as we watch ourselves, I'm like, gosh, I'm doing it again. Like, I'm doing it again. I met someone and he said to me about purpose, he said, watch what you can't stop doing and make a career out of it. Everywhere I go, I say to people, how are you feeling? What's happening in your inner world? And they'll share a problem with me, and I'll just go, and I'll just twist it just a little bit, and I'll be like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, and I feel really good every time that happens. And so I think it's really lovely to give ourselves permission to observe ourselves, to be able to understand that we're always on purpose, but we're always getting more clarity. We're always getting more insight into the precision and different ways to express that, Ruth.
That's fascinating. And I love the that idea of also doing what you can't stop doing, basically, what you naturally come to do. And it's so hard often to find that thing, because it is so natural, because it's like breathing, isn't it? It
really is. It's like breathing, and then you don't even think about doing it. So I think what's really valuable, especially in our marriages and our partnerships, is you get to be very close to someone. You get to really observe. My husband is a master problem solver. He was dyslexic. He can put things up in his mind, turn them around, pull them apart, and then put them back together. So he's an amazing engineer, amazing understanding the components and how they work. But he just has always done that, and so he never qualified it. So I would watch him and go, oh my gosh, you're doing this, like, that's freaking genius. I can't even try to do that. And I think that's what's amazing about being close to our children and close to our partners, is that we love them so much. We're watching them very closely. And the more I watched my husband, he didn't think he was gifted at all. He didn't think there was anything of any value about him. And I'm like, gosh, you're doing this, and gosh, that's amazing. And now, he actually plays with those gifts and acknowledges them to himself more. So with my children, I'm very, very careful to make sure that I honor, because my genius also made me not very good at maths. For me to process numbers is very, very difficult. They're very linear. They're very structured. They're very set. I bleed into everything. Everything's connected to me. It's this one big web. I can handle 32 different emotions in one conversation. I don't deal well with numbers. I'm better now. I've developed the left-hand side of my brain, but our gifts and our talents come with composite weaknesses that are often flagged way before our gifts and our genius are. And I think that's important to look at for our children, that your teacher will flag a weak point in your child. Try not to get concerned about that, and try to see the composite genius, because if we can support our children in their genius, once again, what I do is effortless and it brings me joy. And now this is my thriving career as well. So I go, there's something really special about acknowledging our gifts and our talents, Ruth.
That's amazing. That's really, and that, what's the word you're using? Your composite gift, or your
composite gifts, though, wherever you'll have a weakness, you'll have a genius as well.
And I'm fascinated. You've talked about sort of the children's side of things. I mean, that's something which I'm passionate about. Is the work we do with our children, the work we do as adults, and how those sort of connect together. Have you written about this on the side for the children yet, or are you going?
Oh, I haven't, sweetheart. No, I haven't. It's funny. I feel like, what I try to do is the information that I repeat to clients, that's kind of first up to go into the books. But I've actually realized so much of my storytelling is to convey this information. And so I'm planning on writing a new book every year, because I just love it. I just love helping people to understand things, especially in the emotional realm. But yeah, it's really exciting thinking about our children and if they can learn and be acknowledged from a young age. My gift was never acknowledged. It was never looked upon as anything of value. And in fact, being in my company brings emotions to the surface. Because I'm a healer and I hold to truth, what is not true actually comes to the surface for people. And so actually people would walk away from me and leave me because what I triggered in them, they weren't prepared. And they don't consciously know that I'm a healer and I'm bringing their truth to the surface so they can heal. They just go, I feel uncomfortable around her. I need to remove myself from her presence. But that gave me huge abandonment issues, that I felt like being who I was meant that people would leave me. So this is why it's so important for our children to understand and acknowledge their genius, because, you would probably know this, Ruth, is that when you're doing authenticity work, once again, I didn't know that's what I was doing when I was doing emotional healing work, but the more you emotionally heal, you actually come back to the truth of who you really are. And I do know, I don't do a lot of research into other people's research. I'm a bit more of an intuitive, organic learner myself. But I do know there's repeated studies that confirm that our authentic truth is actually most clearly reflected in our 7 to 9-year-old self.
Okay, yes. Wow.
And so then if we bring that back to the career and profession you have as an adult, if it's of any reflection to the things that you relished and enjoyed as a 7 to 9-year-old child, you're probably pretty damn well on par.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's really amazing. I've certainly heard of this as a 7-year-old. I hadn't realised it went slightly older. Again, that's the sort of age group which I think it's that point, isn't it, where the identity and we haven't quite picked up all the blockages or the things which society says and those sort of things. We're just literally on that crux of the work. Wow, that's fascinating, really fascinating. Gosh, I'm trying to work out where to go there, because we've got sensitive side of things, we've got children's side of things.
Well, what would you be naturally curious to hear more about, Ruth?
Yeah, so I think I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you've managed, as a sense, you talk about like that kind of coming out. And how you've balanced, was it like just trying to get out of your own way in order to do that to begin with, or did you kind of gradually come to the point where you thought, well, you couldn't do the work unless you did come out as such?
That's good to reflect on that. It's interesting because I witnessed with my own clients, the more that I would see their truth and help them to reclaim it and recover it and take ownership of it, there's always these moments of apprehension where we fear that how we were received and perceived when we were younger is going to be recreated now as adults. So this is why we start packing away our truth and disowning our gifts. It's because of the way other people around us respond and react. So, I can't help but not talk about my next book, because you'll love this, and it's part of the process that I'm going through. There's a famous Babylonian goddess called Ishtar. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's the goddess of fertility. And the story goes, it's a powerful story, and it's going to be the preface to my book, that she's in her power, she's glorious, and her husband actually dies. And through that grief and loss, she goes through a descent where she wants to reclaim him from the underworld. No one comes back from the underworld. And there's 7 gates that she goes through in order to try and reclaim him. At every gate, she takes off some of her jewelry. She takes off a crown, she takes off her earrings, she takes off a girdle, bracelets. And they're all symbolic of the different power centers and how we all go through a process of giving our power away. So, for example, we stop seeing the truth, we stop speaking our truth, we stop giving and receiving love, we stop owning our power, we stop seeing ourselves as divine, and we stop feeling safe and like we belong. And from my experience as an emotional healer, we all actually go through a process of knowing our truth, maybe around 7 and 9, and then systematically denying, rejecting, and giving our power away. Now, this is a process that everyone is going to go through, and I think that's really powerful to hear and to know, because I think with our children, we want to kind of avoid it. We know what it's been like to try and reclaim who we are and kind of pull ourselves back up. But if we can understand that it's a process we're all going to go through, and this is why when she goes through these 7 gates and gives her power away, she actually spiritually dies. And what happens is the truth of who she was so necessary for the earth to be whole that the gods actually sent a special messenger to sprinkle the waters of life on her, to actually resurrect her and bring her back to life. Now, when she's brought back to life, she ascends back up through those 7 stages. She re-puts on all of her adornment, which is a reflection. It's symbolic of returning to her power. And this is what I've been doing. The area where I fell the hardest and where I've, been resurrected the strongest is my heart chakra. I love loving. And it's like my power center. And all of us kind of have one of our power centers where we'll fall really hard, but that will make for an amazing comeback. It's the comeback story. And this is why I love what you're interested in, because you're probably naturally going to think of ways that you can support and nurture and nourish the children to be able to help them stay in their power. Now, that's good. That's very valuable. But if we can understand that, we all have a comeback story, and that's what Ishtar really embodies, that because she's basically saved, because her identity and truth was so vital. She's a goddess of fertility, so the gods were watching that in her absence, all the animals stopped mating. Everything ceased to reproduce, and that was not okay. That was going to doom us all. And I guess in the second book, I'm wanting to relay that the truth of who we each are is absolutely essential for the whole of us. Yeah. How you going, Ruth?
Yeah, no, that's really. It's all right. I've jumped and I'm just listening to the stories now. Like, oh my goodness, beautiful story. But no, I think that's absolutely that's a wonderful way of putting it. And both keeping the connection to our power. That connection to our power as children, and trying to keep children having that connection to their power as much as possible, but then knowing, as we do as adults, that we do lose that power, and connecting back to it again, as you say, the comeback, and that power of that the power of the comeback. And maybe the comeback is even stronger because of everything.
It absolutely is, because we know the pain of giving our power away. And as children, we don't know we're doing it. I definitely gave my truth and my power away wanting to be loved by the people around me. And I thought that if I could trade my truth for their love, that I'd fully be in the love creamery, lapping it up, everything would be beautiful. But the more I gave away, the more they required. And the more I gave away, the more they required. And this is, we don't consciously know that we're doing it. And this is why I have so much compassion that we all end up doing this, because we all want to be loved and accepted. We all want to be embraced for who we are. But we go, I see you kind of don't like this little part of me. I'll just put that away for you. Look, you won't even see. You won't even know it's there. Look, gone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you feeling better now? Do you feel better now? And so we're trying to placate these people who have rejected the same parts in themselves.
Yes.
Yeah. Because reacting to the parts of us.
Yeah.
That's right. And so the comeback story is this place where Ishtar has already given away everything. She had nothing left to lose. So as she reclaims her power, it comes from a place of consciousness where she goes, I know what it is to give my power away, and therefore I will never do it again. And we stay in our power. And that comeback story, if we can get more people showing up deeply committed to standing in their truth and standing in their power, then I believe that we're going to have more people rising up and owning their truth more, which is my agenda. You know, for me, I really want to guide and serve and support the people that are on that ascension process, coming back to reclaiming their truth and power. I want to fan their flame, and I want to honor them, and I want to support them in that process, because they will inspire so many people that I can't even reach. So that's a secret agenda of my work, Ruth.
I completely get that agenda.
And I think you share that agenda, and that was why I was excited to connect with you, because you're doing it in a different area to me. You do it from a different angle, but it's still the same work. It's still honoring our children and supporting them, and just reminding adults of the purity and the power that was in their young self that they've totally forgotten. I think it's just very reassuring and comforting to know that we all have a choice to reclaim that truth as soon as we're ready. And I've just seen it so often that people will honestly call in the resources, the books, the people, the guides, the places, the divine inspiration to be able to come back into the truth of who they are. So I don't worry about it anymore, which I used to. I used to worry like, come on, people, we need to know who we are. We need to be able to come back to our truth. And now I go, it's all perfect, because some people are on that descent, and we need to trust that process, because it makes for such a powerful comeback story. Who they're going to become, either on this side or the other side, is what I cherish, and that's what's valuable, and we're all going to get there. That's my belief, Ruth. We're all going to get there. Do you know what I mean? It's just a matter of timing and pathways. There's lots of different pathways. Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, is that we're either on an ascent or we're on a descent, and it doesn't really matter which one, because as you say, we've got, you know, we've got that image of that goddess coming back, and of course, you know, that's what it's all about at the moment anyway. We are, you know, so many people are claiming their power again, but not everybody, and there's time. There is absolutely time.
True. And while we're saying it doesn't matter whether you're on the descent or the ascent, if you're on the descent, you're not going to be a happy, clappy soul. You're not going to be enjoying that pathway. And I can honor that, but I can respect the value of it. And so, you know, if you see someone in your life that you can see is on the descent, the best thing that you can do is just pray for them and just love them. You know, some of them are going to be open to a conversation. A lot of them aren't, because it's just terrifying going down. I went down quite soon. I hit rock bottom at kind of 18, which can for some people be quite young. I've seen other people hit it way sooner and way later, but that was just my point. And it's so perfect, because you do die, and you die to the ways that you were trying to survive. You can't keep replicating that. So it does totally transform the ascension process, because you go, I know what it is to give my power away. Why would I do that?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's so powerful. So unbelievably powerful.
So powerful.
Yeah. And do you think people do have, maybe even if you do start that descent again, maybe something kicks in, so even each time we do descend, or what do you think about that?
Okay, this is good. So you'll never have to descend again. You'll never have to do it again. But what you're talking about is ascending in the different chakra systems. Are you familiar? I'm not very familiar. Yeah. I work a lot with chakra systems. What I've witnessed with the clients I've been blessed to serve is that all of them will have a really big descent and a really big ascent in their, what I call their power center. I think all of us, our passion and our purpose and our gifts incline us to one of the chakras. Mine is my heart chakra. That's why my book's Heart Healing, and it's all about heart, it's all about love. And so the people that are drawn to me, really, they're wanting to heal their heart. They're wanting to heal their heart chakra. I didn't know this. Once again, these are things that you find out as you go along. It's like, oh, my power center is my heart chakra. And all the clients that I attract are wanting to heal that part of themselves. And I go, oh, of course. But even after, okay, so I descended in my heart chakra, felt totally unloved by everyone on the planet, fell deeply in love with myself, and now just embody that love and radiate it to everyone. Whether they want to return that or not is okay with me. But even last year, I had a powerful experience being invited to speak at a Christmas party, and I went and I love singing. And I did have the idea of just doing some singing on the side. I went and got a lesson. The teacher annihilated me. She said, for your first lesson, we're going to just sing me 3 songs and then I'll critique you. And I was like, oh, I'll show her how good I am. And I was like belting out my songs, fully getting into it. And she's like, do you have any idea what key you're singing in? Like, I have no idea. I don't know notes. I don't know the piano. And I was like, no. And she was like, you're completely off key. And I was like, oh, probably. And so she just went to the piano and tapped a key, and she's like, sing that note. And I couldn't just sing that note. I didn't have the clarity to hear it and replicate it. And that's where she thought it was valuable in singing training. I walked away very deflated and committed to never going back to that woman again. So I totally renounced any desire to sing. Now, at this Christmas party, I was doing a talk about stepping into who you really are in order to thrive. There was about 45 women there. And then it was the end, and we're all clapping and standing up, and someone said, I want to dance. And I was like, who's got music? And they're like, we don't have any music. And I was like, boom. And I just started singing Alicia Keys' This Girl Is on Fire. And I sang it from the heart, and I love that song. And I just nailed it. I've never sang so well, because they were asking for a song. Emotionally, they wanted to step into their power and they wanted to feel really good. So I used the vehicle of my voice in the song in order to create that. Now, driving home from that, I was like, blow me down. I've just ascended in my throat chakra. And I'm like, how? So if you think you're descending again, it'll be in a different power center, okay? Once you've ascended in one power center, now that I've done that, I can sing on cue anywhere. I've had more singing engagements, singing at church and singing at my children's school gala, and I get into it and I love it, because I will not give my power away to someone else's perspective on what needs to be in order for my voice to be acceptable, yeah? I know that now. You can't take that from me.
Right. Yeah.
So does that help, Ruth? And so I'm kind of, okay, so lately my work has been on my solar plexus. It's the seat of our emotion, but it's also the seat of our power and our will. And I want to create so many big things in the world. I've shut that area of myself down because I don't feel worthy, capable. They're probably the 2 biggest things to create everything that I want. And so I've shut that area down, and right now I'm ascending in that area, giving myself permission to own that the desires that I have are mine and they're right for me. And that while I don't know how they're going to come forward, I don't know how I'm going to write a book every year for the next 10 years and become an expert on emotional healing. I'm just going to hold that intention and see what happens. Do you know what I mean?
I do, absolutely. That's amazing. And do you find yourself consciously concentrating on each chakra, or?
I like to do, maybe once a week, I'll do a healing with myself where I'll really feel in and discern. Probably every second day, I'll just visualize. I receive totem animals for each of my chakras, and I just meditate on the color or on that animal and use affirmations like, for me, the things that I genuinely desire are divine and pure. And I just channel, I guess, the words to really help me to own the sanctity of whatever it is I'm wanting to reclaim. But we're all frightened of our own truth. Do you know what I mean? We really are. We're frightened of our own truth because we go, who do I see in my life running around owning their truth? If I don't see anyone doing that, is it safe to do that? Yeah. And this is, I think, why we give our power away to stars, because someone like Beyonce is fully in her power. She's fully in her sacral chakra power center. I'm a divine sexual being. Worship me, look at me. I'm going to strut my stuff. And so some people will react to that if they're disowning their own sacral chakra divinity, or some people will go, she's doing that. I admire her so much, that we give our power away and go, she's doing that, but I can't.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
We'll always attract people in our lives that I call our light shadow. They're a reflection of who we can be, but that we go, I'd rather revere you than own that I'm like you at this point. But that's still a stepping stone to be able to reclaim that part of ourselves.
Yes. So it's either you veer or you just go, no, not for me, because of it being so clashed with wherever we are in our journey, I suppose. Okay. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Gosh, there's so much.
Well, I'm excited that it's an exciting topic for you, because not everyone wants to think about this or talk about this, but for me, it's all that's important. And that's why I think, for anyone watching this interview, the things that you're naturally intrigued by and the things that are curious to you, there's something to that. Like anything that you find curious and interesting, just give yourself permission to explore that, because I didn't know about being an empath. I didn't know, I'm intuitive to the point where I started on Fiverr last year offering intuitive affirmations for $5 just to see if I was gifted, just to see. And people would just tell me their name, and it would be a complete stranger. I would just pray and ask for guidance for them. And I would just feel things and see things, and then I'd do my best to relay that to them. And then I got amazing feedback. I got like 50 5-star reviews last year out of like 65 different orders that I did. And sometimes I was off. And sometimes they didn't like how on I was, which I found very interesting. But I don't do that anymore. But it was a stage where I'm like, gosh, what if I could do this? And then I did it. And now I incorporate that into my work. My clients will sometimes just text me and go, can I just have an affirmation? And I can just feel into where they are. So, yeah, I didn't know all of this was possible, but really follow the natural inclinations of your heart, because they're always going to lead you to your path. And the more we can faithfully follow those natural inclinations and yearnings and feelings, we're just going to find ourselves aligning more closely to who we really are and what we're really here to do.
That's wonderful. And that curiosity, that just trying things out. And I suppose, going back to sort of the child things, it's that curiosity we have as children, isn't it? Where Absolutely. There's nothing's, you talk about Fiverr, and it's just like, well, that's an easy way just to try something out, isn't it? And
just to play. It's really important to play, because as adults we get very, I didn't even know that emotional healing was I didn't even know it was a thing. What was really scary for me coming out of the closet and claiming myself as an emotional healer was I didn't think anyone would want that, which was so ironic, because now I'm still booked out all the time. Like as soon as one client finishes, I'll just get people contacting me to start again. And I just laugh now, because I nearly didn't come out, because I thought, no one's going to invest in this, and I'm just going to look like a fool saying I can do something that no one wants. But that was my own wounding, my own experience of people not wanting to be around me and not wanting to partake of that gift. So my descent was really thinking my truth and my gifts were completely unvaluable and therefore rejecting them, and then going, well, I don't even care if you all think it's not valuable. I'm telling you it's valuable, because it's valuable for me. And I use my gifts to bless myself. And I think this is really important for people to know, that on the ascent is that we all want to help everybody else with what we want help with. This is the most common thing in humanity. I'll fully help you with that. And people like run around, I'll do that for you. And it's just like, if we give ourselves permission to do that thing for ourselves, then we actually know the value of our own medicine. I took my own medicine before I knew what it could do. And once I saw what it did for my world, the power and the freedom, and I guess the reconnection that it rekindled within me, I'm like, have a taste of this. And then I just started putting forward to my clients that I was working with in eating disorders, and just asked for permission. Can I talk to you about this? What I sense? You're not taught to do that as a life coach. I wasn't taught to go, I'm just feeling this. What is that about? And then they go, well, this is this. And I'm like, oh. And then it'd just be a and it would just release and dissolve. And so all of our shadow patterns, like our eating disorders, are really just ways that we're trying to manage our emotional pain. So if you try to handle that, you're going to keep going back to it because of the cause. The cause is still aching for relief, and the pattern is just how we're trying to appease it. And so people try to work on the pattern. You're not going to get anywhere. People spend years in addiction recovery. Oh, man.
Yeah.
And then they'd come to me and I'm like, oh, let's look at this. And they're like, what is that? And I'm like, well, that's what it's really about. And they're like, and some people would walk away, and I honor that. And some people would go, oh my God, and then we just open it up and it would totally transform their experience, and the shadow pattern just falls away. And I'm like, oh. So when people started to heal their addictions, I started going, actually, this is probably valuable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You start qualifying it. But if you don't begin playing, you don't give yourself enough experience and knowledge and outcome-based results to be able to qualify it within.
That's amazing. That is so, and it's seeing the worth of it yourself to begin with. I think that's so important. Well, my goodness, wow. Well, I think we probably should sort of finish the tidying up. Yeah, that was just amazing. So just to finish off, a little bit reminder, so your website and details and things?
Yes, you can find me at lysablack.com. That's Lysa Black, black and white black. So lysablack.com, and on Facebook, my business is called Heart Magic. So if you look for Heart Magic, you'll find me on Facebook as well. They're the two favorite places for me to play.
Brilliant, and there'll be the links for those as well on the videos, so we'll sort that out. That was amazing. I think there's so much food for thought there.
It's a feast of bounty.
Absolutely, and so much wonderful imagery as well, definitely with the goddess, and just so many beautiful gifts, so many wonderful insights. So thank you so much.
Oh, it's been such a joy to play with you. Your little girl is very close to the surface. And it's lovely to feel the connection and the union between you two, because that's what is lovely for us all to be able to embody. So you're very naturally playful and revealing because of that beautiful connection that you've been able to forge, sweetheart. So it's been lovely playing with you today.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Well, thank you.